comes around, the talk around the town is what happened on the weekend in the footy. Monday nights, we're talking footy. Monday nights, we're talking footy.
Hello and welcome to Talking Footy for another week. Brian Taylor filling in for Luke Darcy. He will be back next week. A massive show tonight. As always, I'm joined by Sam McClure, Tim Watson and Wayne Carey. There's plenty coming up, including the latest on the Pies. We review all areas of the club in the wake of their loss to the Bombers. And are the Bulldogs' problems bigger than just on the field? Will we have a new flag favourite by the end of this week? And we look forward to all of that. Let's get stuck into it. Welcome to you, Sam.
Good evening, BT and everyone. Let's start with Collingwood and specifically the future of their coach, Nathan Buckley. We're going to do our own 9-part review, given that the Collingwood Footy Club is in the middle of a review. But first, let's hear from Buckley post-game after the latest loss to Essendon.
Feels like we've reached a bit of a tipping point, to be honest, with the players. You know, just that effort we haven't seen all year, and I thought it was the first time that I'd seen, you know, probably the players look like they'd lost a bit of hope. There's two things in it. I think there's hard work and there's talent. I'm working really hard.
The tipping point part of that grab stood out for me. I mean, journalistically, someone that goes to press conferences quite a lot, I'd never heard that sort of language from Nathan Buckley. But what we're going to do tonight, guys, is specifically do our own part of the review. What's gone right and what has gone wrong at the Collingwood Footy Club since Nathan Buckley took over. And we begin, BT, with the starting point.
Well, the starting point was that Nathan Buckley probably took the job a little bit too young. He only had 2 years of experience when he was in the job. But the interesting thing, when he did take it on, he took on a side that had just completed 2 grand finals and won one of them. So he was taking on a good side. There was a really solid board there, a solid footy department there. Everything was set up. So as a starting point...
But was he ready, BT? Did he have the right apprenticeship as a coach? I know that's a separate issue.
Probably not.
Okay.
But from the point of view... Were the things put in place for him to coach as well as he could? Yes, they were.
They weren't going through a rebuilding process at that stage, were they? It was like a topping up of what they already had and what they already had achieved. In fact, his first season, they almost made a grand final too.
What about the recruiting since he's been there? Tim, the ins and outs specifically of the playing list.
Well, let's take a look at those players that have been recruited in the time that Nathan Buckley has been at the club and those players that the club has let go. On the left-hand side, you've got the players that have come in now. I would say Treloar, Howe, Varco, Crisp, Adams, Greenwood. Wells, in the time that we saw him, made a contribution. On the debit side, you look at the blokes that are still playing in AFL football: Wellingham, Thomas, Shaw, Beams, Cloak, Williams and Brown. Of those players there that I've just mentioned, you've got Beams, who's the captain of the Brisbane Lions, and you've got Heath Shaw, who's probably played the best football of his career at GWS, is now the vice-captain. So they've both gone into leadership roles at those clubs.
And let's not forget that they've got the same recruiting guy there. So he did a great job getting them to 2 grand finals. So I'm not sure that we can blame him.
No, but if you look at, if you actually analyse the players that have actually made an impact, those players that have gone out, I don't think they've actually lost too much in that time in terms of talent they've come into the club. If you do a closer analysis of those players, looking at, there's not one key position player that's had an impact in that time that they've brought into the club, Duck. So they actually haven't found a spine player in that time, other than Darcy Moore, who obviously was recruited to the club under father-son.
Is the list better or worse right now than it was when he took over?
I think it's worse. I don't think it has the same talent. I don't think it has the same balance of personnel as to what it had when he first arrived.
The footy administration...
Now, he can't be blunt, because that's a club decision.
No, he's got a team of recruiters and list managers underneath him to do that. Team. The footy administration, BT, had been no start for first time.
Post of footy director. I've listed them here. Started with Jeff Walsh, who was absolutely a ripping great job. Then Marcus came back and filled the role again. So you can only say in the 6 years that Bucks has been there, with 5 of those guys, that's been a very difficult one.
And that's hard for a coach, isn't it?
That leads to instability. I mean, really, you want to have. You would think that in most good football clubs, if you look at Chris Fagan, use Hawthorn as an example. I mean, Fagan alongside Al Clarkson was a great combination.
Stability, wasn't it?
A great duo over a long period of time. He hasn't been able to establish that, or the club hasn't been able to establish that for him.
Duck, what about the way they play? the game style. What is it?
I think this has been the most frustrating thing about Collingwood over the time I've been watching them the last 5 or 6 years, and that is that we're confused. We don't know. Clearly Nathan Buckley and the players should know what they're trying to do, Tim. Either the message isn't getting through, players not able to take that on board, but clearly
or they're not capable of
That's
doing
right.
it.
So from an outsider looking in, we watch them, and I think that's the most talked about thing about Collingwood over the last 4 years, and that is we don't know what sort of style, we don't know how they're going about playing. We understand if they bring their A-grade pressure, they play good footy, but that's about it.
They haven't established a brand, have they?
No.
A brand of playing. There's that sort of from week to week, from season
Which
to
is
season.
frustrating. I can imagine it'd be frustrating for Bucks because it's very frustrating for us watching because we just don't know what they're trying to do.
Interesting on the weekend, Sam, when you watched them, when they went backwards in defence, they went backwards to a guy that was manned up and had to kick over the man on the mark. When you watched the Bombers, it was to a guy that could play on and penetrate the corridor.
If that is a game style, it's the wrong one.
Speaking of game style, Tim, you're the coach amongst us. What about how they are coached on match day, from siren to siren? Is that something that's too hard to judge from the outside looking in?
Look, I think it is really hard because sometimes you set your players up to play a certain way and your tactics, and players for whatever reason can't execute, and then you're on the back foot and you're changing whatever. But I think probably one of the insights that we got into Nathan Buckley as a person, the way that he sets up his coaching staff, was probably provided by Ben Hart, who did share a little bit of time there at Collingwood in the coach's box with him. Let's have a listen to what he had to say.
Bucks is a very strong-willed coach. He has very strong views about how he thinks the game should be played, but clearly it's not continually working. Some parts of the game absolutely are working, but there's a lot of other things that aren't quite working.
I mean, it was interesting because I was part of that interview, and what Ben Hart didn't say was more damning than what he was saying, and he really was pointing to the fact that he's been inflexible and he's been very stubborn in the way that he's gone about. Now, that's okay if it works for you, but when it doesn't, that's when you probably have to be leaning on people around you a little bit more than what maybe he's been prepared to do.
And that's probably the next point, assistant coaches. You've got to have a strong assistants. You look at the Bombers and they've got a very, very senior outfit. You look at Collingwood. Now, Scotty Burns and Brenton Sanderson, they are their two senior assistants. Sanderson's barely just got there, so it's been a bit difficult. But then you look at the others, Lockyer, Rivers, Harvey and also Anthony Rocker. Now, they're all good coaches in their own right, but they're very inexperienced and very young.
Compare that to Essendon right now. All of Essendon's assistants have all coached their own, the senior level, AFL senior level.
Duck, Tim talked about the recruiting and the ins and outs. What about players who have improved individually since Bucks became coach?
Yeah, look, I've gone through it, and in the current senior team right now, there's not a lot. There's a few that have stagnated, I guess, and I guess, Pendlebury's got a very high level, and I think he reaches that level, but has he absolutely got better? Probably not. I think Grundy has most certainly got better. Treloar, since he's been at that footy club, has been superb. Probably dropped off a little bit this year compared to last year, but set a very high mark. Howe has been unbelievable, I think, at the Collingwood Footy Club. And Sidebottoms and Adams, I think Adams has definitely improved. Sidebottom, for me, is an All-Australian player. I think he's a star. But has he just levelled out, BT?
But see,
can he go to a whole new level? I think the one thing, and we get down to game style, I think what you've got to try to do is obviously give a team a style, and then you talk about players. It's about getting the best out of players, and that's why you ask that question. I don't think he's necessarily got the best out of a lot of players on that list.
And when I speak to some of the senior coaches around, they all say that the fundamental role of a coach is to improve players. Surely that is the most of fundamental things you do as a coach.
To develop and improve, And that's when you leave your mark on a group. And, you touched on a point there, and that sometimes is as simple as being able to acknowledge what a player can't do as opposed to what a player can do, and then find that specific role for that player.
Tim, every coach needs strong off-field leadership from the chairman, the CEO, the board. Has he got that at Collingwood?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they've got a very stable administration there from Eddie Maguire down. Gary Pert has been there for the duration of Buckley's coaching at Collingwood.
Board's been solid.
The board has been solid. I mean, I would say they have given and provided Nathan Buckley with every tool that he has required in the time that he's been there. I reckon there's one problem they've got, and that is the emotional attachment that the boss has, and I'm talking about Eddie now, to Nathan. I mean, he loved Nathan as a player. They made sure that the succession plan fitted so that Nathan...
He had an emotional contact with Mick Malthouse as well. He went and got him.
Yeah, I think so, but he didn't barrack for Nathan Buckley. He didn't barrack for Mick Malthouse. I mean, and when you appoint a favourite son of a football club, it comes with a lot of other issues, and I think that probably it's the heartache that brings, particularly if at some point in time you've got to part ways.
Tim, we know that Bucks put the pressure on himself last year when he said he almost had to play in finals to keep his job, but there have been other people at Collingwood that I think have put pressure and elements of stress on his position. Let's listen to Gary Pert, the CEO, back in 2015.
Quite clearly from the players, Nathan, myself, the board, we expect to be playing in the finals this year, and we'll be very, very disappointed if we aren't.
And that's, Sam, that goes to the heart of a big club, BT. I mean, you've been part of Collingwood. You know how big that club is. I mean, there's always that expectation that they're going to be one of the competition leaders. And, you know, really, you build that expectation season on season. And somebody has to deliver.
And things happen like are happening now with all these reviews. We're conducting our own mini review in about 5 minutes. That's what happens at Collingwood. That's what you've got to expect as someone that's employed there.
And lastly, let's talk about the culture, because it's a word that's often thrown up when we discuss Collingwood.
Yep.
What kind of culture has been developed there? Let's go to Tommy Brown. Tom from 7 News. You spoke to Mick Moldhouse, of course, former premiership coach before Nathan Buckley. What did he have to say about the change in culture since he left?
Good evening, Sam. Bucks supporters often point out that Buckley inherited a bad culture. The so-called Rat Pack had to move on guys like Wellingham, Beams, Lumumba, Shaw and Dawes. Well, this afternoon I addressed that specifically with the man that left that culture, Mick Moldhouse. He's got good relationships at the moment with Collingwood. He's not bitter, but he was happy to address this specific knock on the culture, pointing out that he wouldn't clearly have moved those guys on. It was a winning culture. People enjoyed working at Collingwood, and the Rat Pack are really good people. This was Mick Moldhouse speaking to me one-on-one this afternoon.
There's a lot of things that can get under your skin, and one, for people to harp on bad culture is something that, one, I don't understand. Two, is it's an indictment on people who suggest that when they should know the calibre of the people that were at that football club. And if we call about the Rat Pack, the supposed Rat Pack, you've got one of them that's captain of Brisbane. One's a vice captain of Greater Western Sydney. Others are very well, they've finished their football and high in society in regard to their jobs and their families and so forth.
Well, it's a complete misnomer to suggest that you took a blind eye to what they're doing away from the field, so long as they're winning.
No. Let's get this right. A football coach and a football club don't own the player. They're not the parent. I believe this. If you want to treat players as children, they'll act like it. If you want to treat players as an adult, then generally they'll act as an adult.
Now, also in a development tonight, guys, I believe Collingwood will at least look at Alistair Clarkson. I put this to his manager, James Henderson, this afternoon, and he reconfirmed to me that Alistair is fully committed to Hawthorn until at least the end of 2019. According to his manager, James Henderson, Alistair is not on the market.
Well done, Tom. Thank you very much. Interesting what Moldhouse had to say. So he's not just talking about the players. No. He's talking about the whole club. He's talking about the person in there that makes the sandwiches while the players are there all day, feeds them breakfast, you know, the boot starter, everyone. He's talking about having a group of people that all get on and, most importantly, enjoy working at the club, because they're the ones that create this culture that you allude to.
So, BT, do you think that the way or the juxtaposition really between Moldhouse and Buckley, the comparison hasn't worked, and that people liked what Mick Moldhouse was bringing as a coach and they don't with Nathan Buckley? Is that what you're saying?
I think we're getting confused. This is not a Mick Moldhouse versus Nathan Buckley thing. Mick Moldhouse coached really well when he was there. Yeah. He did a great job. He got them a premiership and into four grand finals in total. So he did a tremendous job. Nathan Buckley has decided to do it his way, which is fine. You do it your way, that is fine. But when you implement your strategy, then you've got to be responsible for it at the end of it.
And some people might be wondering why we would even choose to go to Mick Moldhouse and get a grab on that. And that is because
he's the only one that can answer that question.
That's right. And I think we've all heard at different stages that Nathan Buckley had a big mess to clean up at Collingwood, and part of that was a cultural problem that they had.
That's not right.
And, well, that's exactly what Mick's saying there, that they had to weed players out, and only now has he got to the point where he's actually got the players that he wants and the character in the players that he wants.
If we had 10 Sams, it wouldn't be good as if we had, you know, one of each.
No, I understand.
You need all of these different personalities to make a good club work.
And in essence, and we've talked about this many times, I mean, this is what coaching is all about. It's not about having 42 choir boys. It's about being able to
Nothing
manage...
against the 10 Sams.
about being able to bring players who bring a certain skill set to the game, but being able to marry that with everybody else and a game plan and making sure that everybody gets on and they deliver the results.
Not sure 9 more of me would be good for anyone, BT. Let's, in summary, so that's our 9-part review. Collingwood in the middle of a footy review. This is Talking Footy's 9-part review. We believe that he had a good starting point, although discuss different elements there. The recruiting, the administration stability, the playing style, we don't think have worked. Does he have the right team of assistant coaches, which is not Nathan Buckley's fault, of course, and have they individually improved? We say no, but he has had good off-field leadership.
And the two we've left blank there, playing style and club culture, because...
Difficult to know
unless you're inside the club.
Speaking of reviews, the Gold Coast Suns, late last night, announced that they are also undergoing a full review. Here's Andrew Hamilton's article from late last night. So this will look at everything from the coach to the head of recruiting, Scott Clayton, the head of footy, Marcus Ashcroft. Yep. This is a wide-scale review, Tim.
This is not about losing. This is about the way you lose. Yeah. And that was a terrible loss at the weekend.
They had 4 points between quarter time and three-quarter time.
At quarter time, they looked like they were very much in the game.
Yep.
And then I think it was about the 20-minute mark or the 15-minute mark of the last quarter before they scored another goal.
What do you think will happen here, Duck?
Oh, look, it's a concern for the AFL, isn't it? Because they're a new club. They shouldn't be having these type of reviews at this stage of their life in the AFL. It's as simple as that. And they've shown some ability this year, BT. I think there's been some improvements. But then on the weekend, they just go straight back to where they were, last year and the year before.
So with 2 clubs now in review, there could be some spots opening up for new coaches at the start of next year. And this is not something we talk about just now. This happens every year, Tim, that there could be new coaches coming in. So here's the crop. The first call you'd think, Tim, goes to Alistair Clarkson, who Tom has just reported to us has essentially been ruled out. Then you've got Paul Roos. Is Brad Scott still going to be the coach of North Melbourne next year? You've got Ratton and Voss, who have previously coached. And then on the right-hand side, Tim, you've got the untried coaches. Of course, Carlton most recently going down that road with Brendan Bolton.
That's right. And those players that have done their, I think it's their level 4 coaching.
Level 4 coaching, yep.
Right. Yeah. And you know what I find really interesting, and it's a very difficult thing to get the right coach, OK? But you look at Damien Hardwick recently, he said, OK, look, I was going about it the wrong way last year and, I changed the way that I coach, that type of thing. And I think, blokes like Ratton and guys like Voss who've been there, they get that opportunity too to reflect wholly on what they've done, how they went about it. They've gone somewhere else. They've got another experience. They've had observations that they've made again about the game. They should all be a lot better the second time.
Hey, Duck, we have a little bit of a feeling. It's just a sneaky feeling, isn't it, on Paul Roos? Just a sneaky.
Oh,
but you work with this.
Well, we've sat here and done a review tonight. Roosie on Triple M a couple of times this year, and I work with him on a Sunday, and he's away at the moment. But he has analysed this club.
Which one?
Most week, Collingwood I'm talking about. And so, I don't know, I just get the feeling that Roosie just a little bit invested. But I'm not saying he's going to be coaching there, but he's been invested.
But you think he'd take the call, Duck? You'd think he'd take the call?
I think Paul Roos would take the call. There's no doubt about that.
BT?
He has a lot of respect for Eddie Maguire.
Yeah, I think he'd take the call at the appropriate time.
You work with him, though. Do you think he actually has the desire to coach again?
He can be persuaded, I think.
He loves his lifestyle. Yeah. He's caught between both.
I'll tell you one coach who's not under pressure for his job, but he's certainly under the pump, is Luke Beveridge. Duck, they had another poor loss on Friday night to the Crows, who must be said are in very good form, but Luke Beveridge admitted post-game that he and his players are shattered.
Yeah, I am, and we're all gutted, because obviously you don't like to sit in the front row and witness that. We feel like we're made of a bit more substance, but it was too disappointing.
Luke, is this the moment that makes you ask some harder questions about what's happened to the group or what's happened this year?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And I just have.
Yeah, strong stuff there from Luke Beveridge. Haven't heard him speak about that. He's always backed the group. And I guess when you win a premiership, BT, it's always tough that next year and the year after to go back to the players that delivered you the ultimate success and be critical of them. Now it's time. They've had a long break Friday night to this coming Sunday. They're just bereft of confidence. This is a group that at times last year and the year before, Tim, would get injuries and just go in there. They'd overcome them. They wouldn't think about it too much. They were full of confidence. And it looked like you couldn't deflate that. They are now deflated. And I don't think they'll play finals footy this year. I think they missed the finals. I don't think that they can get that confidence back before the end of the year to have enough wins to play finals footy this year.
Surely the year is not over, Tim, before it starts.
No, it is. It's not going to be an era. They won the flag last year. They're not going to win this year's flag. I'm with Duck. I don't think they'll even make the final. Have a look at the form ladder. This is, I think, since round 11 this year, so between rounds 11 and 16. There's the top 8. Sydney Swans, I mean, no surprise. Look at their percentage, 152. Have a look at the bottom of the page now, right down in 17th position, the Western Bulldogs. But have a look at their percentage. That is the worst percentage in the rounds between 11 and 16, the worst percentage in the competition.
That's staggering.
Adding to what you've said, I mean, they are a bottom... They're a bottom 4 side at the moment, and they're playing like a bottom 4 side.
Tim, you said the era is over. I mean, Hawthorn went through this. They arguably won the flag too early in 08, missed the finals in 09. They essentially took almost 2 full years to get over that. They still had a pretty successful era after that.
Yeah, but if BT's talking about now, if you're talking about putting a premiership on top of last year's premiership, that's not going to happen.
I guess if you've got good players there, you've got good players.
They've got good players.
And they should come through.
They've got good players, but he might have to do what Al Clarkson has done with Hawthorn too, and that's just re-engineer, re-energise this group of players and get them playing slightly different. Everyone's caught on to what they did last year, and they're doing it better than what the Bulldogs are doing.
And they're broken men at the minute. If Luke Beveridge can pull them out of this hole and they can win enough games to play finals footy this year, that'll be as good as what he did last year in winning the premiership.
It just shows
it'll be that sort of effort.
How good Alistair Clarkson was and is.
Hey, speaking of Alistair Clarkson and the Hawks, one of, if not their greatest ever, well, one of their greatest ever players, Luke Hodge.
There's a lot of great players at Hawthorn.
Yeah, that's why I staggered through that sentence, and I'm really glad that I did. Announced his retirement at the end of the season. He plays his 300th game against Geelong this weekend. He had this to say in a media conference.
Personally, and I think you've got the same opinion, if I play on next year, that I'll be taking a spot of a younger guy. And as a senior bloke, I would never want to do that.
All of his teammates, all of his coaches and all of those within the footy club would know the most significant thing that he's contributed to our footy club and its success has been the sacrificial manner in which he's gone about it. He's always put his teammates and his footy club ahead of himself.
Footy's a roller coaster ride, but tell you what, we've had some really good times here, and we're probably lucky enough that every 10 years there'll be 4 opportunities we'll be able to come back as a group and celebrate what we've achieved as a footy club.
Slightly emotional there, wasn't he? As well, as you would be. Have a look at this. The list of achievements, just absolutely outstanding from Luke Hodge. 4-time premiership player, doesn't get any better than that. A couple of Norm Smith medals in there, best and fairest, all Australians. You name it, this guy has done it. Not only that, he's been a brilliant leader, as indicated in 2010 with the All-Australian captain. The question from me is, and he's only... Well, he hasn't quite retired yet. It's at the end of the year that it becomes effective. Any chance of being inducted as a legend? I think there's 27 in the... We know he'll go into the Hall of Fame.
Close.
Legend.
I don't. It doesn't immediately spring to mind that he'll go in as a legend.
Who does?
Well, you got Carey. You got Duck, this bloke alongside me. He's not in as a legend yet. You got Ablett Senior not in as a legend yet. You got Kevin Sheedy not in as. I mean, there's a few people I would think are before Luke Hodge, but he might get there one day. When you think about sacrifice, so you think about the times that he's actually sacrificed his body for his team as well,
not only
and
that,
put himself in really dangerous positions to make sure that he affects the sport. Whatever he did, I mean, they're just small things.
I think the fact that he stayed at that footy club too, when he could have gone to any other club for a lot more money, BT, but they kept that club together. A lot of those players played for less money. He's a superstar. He'll go straight into the Hall of Fame.
All 4 premierships, BT, he polled in Norm Smith medal voting. I think that goes to show about how good a big game player
He's good,
was.
but to be a legend, you've got to be unreal.
Well, what about players playing right now?
Right now, if I had to pick... The only player playing right now that I think could go into legend is Gary Ablett. He'd be the one. If Buddy kicks 1,000 goals, he'd have a very, very strong cause, I would think. But that's how hard it is to get in. It's a very, very difficult situation. Hey, stay in touch by social media. Plenty more to come on Talking Footy. Still to come on Talking Footy, the latest on Clayton Oliver's spat with a Carlton fan, and was Richmond's massive loss an aberration, or is there trouble afoot at Tigerland? And will we have a new flag favourite at the end of the next round? That's all still ahead on a big edition of Talking Footy.
We're talking footy.
You've never seen trucking like this.
Hang on to your hat.
Damn, look at that. I am scared.
In Mate's new series,
anything can happen.
Get the out of here.
We're going to pick up
We're talking footy.
Welcome back to Talking Footy. Massive game on Sunday. The D's getting just over the line against an undermanned Blues who had 2 short from half-time. But the big incident from the game was one involving Clayton Oliver, and he's running with a fan. You see the vision here, halfway through the second quarter. Clearly something said to him. He goes back, gives him a serve. Now, we've since found out a bit more about this and what was said. Clayton Oliver's story has seemed to change in the space of 24 hours. This is what Clayton Oliver had to say today, clearly contrite about his actions on the weekend.
Shouldn't have reacted the way I did, and I apologise for that, taking the polish off the team win, moving forwards. Obviously I learned from this and won't happen ever again.
Did you make a threat, Clayton? Is that what you're apologising for?
No, I don't believe so.
Oh, boy.
Now, this is a statement from Josh Marnie before we get into this, BT. Clayton heard a sledge from the general direction of the crowd, reacted directly to the fan in an unprofessional manner. He acknowledges that there was no profanity used and accepts his fault in the situation. We apologise for the offence caused. Clayton understands this should not occur again. The statement goes on, but the interesting thing for me, Tim, is that he's admitted there that a profanity wasn't used. Well, that's not what he said after the game. That's not what he was telling people. He said that a very strong 4-letter profanity was directed at him, and that's why he reacted so savagely.
BT, what do you think about the way that he presented himself in that
The apology
statement?
wasn't good. It looked like he'd been told to say exactly that, and when he forgot, he asked, hey...
What did?
I don't think Melbourne are happy.
No, they could be.
And fair enough too. I mean, this is not what you want.
What did the AFL? How'd they react to this?
Well, they investigated it from the venue. The venue gives security reports after every game. Yeah. The fan demanded an apology. He wasn't happy.
Has he got that?
Well, he's got an apology there from Clayton. He's apologised in that statement. The Melbourne Footy Club have apologised if any offence was caused, but that's not a good look.
Are Melbourne worried about Clayton Oliver right now?
No, I don't think they're worried about
They're not worried about his behaviour, innit?
No, I don't think so. And he's playing sensational footy, Duck. Yeah, he was.
Are you worried, Tim?
No, I'm not really worried, but I think he just needs to just rein himself in a bit. I mean, he doesn't...
So you are worried?
Well, he doesn't need to have the added pressure. As a young player, he doesn't need to have the added pressure of becoming some sort of highlighted player in the competition at a young
so you're
age.
worried about that?
I'm worried about that part of his game, drawing undue attention to himself for the wrong reasons. So I am worried about him, Brian.
Just to cap off on this one, he did say there, he was asked directly if there was a threat made, and he said no. The allegation from the patron is that there was a threat made. So I'm not sure we've got absolute clarity on what happened. Something we do have clarity on is the MRP. Tim Membry, the big victim of it, he has been offered 3 weeks down to 2 for this incident on Dylan Grimes. It's a really bad one, you know. It knocks him out. It was...
That's a fair call, I reckon.
Yeah, I think it's a fair call as well. This is Greenwood on merit. He got 2 down to 1 for this off the ball.
Spot on, I reckon.
Yep.
Yeah, initial contact was shoulder. I reckon he gets him flush in the head after that. That's fair enough. And this here is Easton Wood. Now, this is a 3rd indiscretion for that little punch. This one. He goes down. He misses this week against Carlton, which is big. And Trent Cotchin avoids suspension, but he's now on 2. For this on Jack Loney.
Well, Duck, you happy with both?
You know what I can't believe? The players are still doing these rubbish little punches that don't hurt anyone, and they just put themselves in trouble.
I couldn't agree more. And I reckon one of the great things also with the umpires at the weekend, BT, I know you called a couple of these where blokes would just sort of belted with a forearm or whatever off the ball. Let's clean that up. I mean, it shouldn't exist in the game.
I will say there, McGovern hits Easton Wood. Easton Wood hits McGovern back. Now, I know Easton Wood's obviously had a couple of warnings already, but he gets suspended for that. But McGovern doesn't get a warning for it, yet it's the same thing. I mean, they just don't. They're just little rabbit punches. It's stupidity.
It's a big loss for the Saints. Big game this weekend against the Bombers on Friday night. Membry kicked 5 on the weekend, and McCartan's still not back from concussion. So they've gone from having, 4 forwards down to 2 with Bruce and Rewalt. Bruce kicked 2 goals, 5 on the weekend. So they're going OK, the Saints, but it's a big game on Friday night. And the other big news to come out of injury circles today is that Patrick Cripps is out for the season. It's at least a 6-week injury.
So is that a break?
Fractured fibula.
Right.
For that kick in the top of the back of the calf, he was in a lot of pain coming off the ground.
Yep.
And that's a significant loss for that footy club because he is their bull and their general in there, BT.
Is there a possibility that McCartan could come back and play at the weekend in the season? We know that he's been on the sidelines for 2 weeks.
The Saints say basically no chance. If he plays, it'll be in the VFL.
Okay.
Yeah, he's been training, but hasn't had any contact in his training.
So they're still worried about his head injury, are they?
Oh, I think they're just being ultra conservative. Let's move on to the Tigers. Duck, was this just an aberration on the weekend? Speaking of the Saints, they were absolutely belted, particularly in the first half.
Yeah, look, I think so. You can't play that poorly, BT. I just think they've had an off day. They haven't had an off day all year. I know they've been beaten in games, but this was a shellacking in the first half, BT. And you can't put your finger on anything. The Saints very good. Tigers very, very poor.
Forget about it. Damien Hardwick, don't show the tape to the players. They won the second half. They won the second half, the Tigers. It is an absolute aberration. They're still one of my premiership favourites without any doubt.
They didn't come out to play, though.
No, they didn't.
They had a soft attitude at the start.
What a great lesson at this stage of the year to say, if you don't come ready, then you can have that sort of a shellacking. So,
well, it shows once again the closeness of the competition. We saw the Kangaroos do a similar thing to Adelaide earlier in the year, and the Kangaroos have done hardly anything since.
Yeah, that's true.
I thought their coach, Damien Hardwick, got involved in something he probably could have avoided after the game. Kane Corns, of course, who were premiership teammates, him and Damien Hardwick in 2004, tweeted, if a top four side concedes 32 inside 50s in 45 minutes, you've got ahead of yourself. No other explanation. He was then asked in a direct question about this after the game. This is how Damien Hardwick reacted.
Seriously, I'd love to see Kane. I'd really love to see Kane.
Yep.
Don't get me wrong. That's his job.
Sure.
He's there to write shit comments.
Okay. But do you give that any credibility, though?
Please.
Everything was going okay, BT, until he swore. I didn't think it was a good look. I know people will say, "I'll just forget about it," but he didn't need to. He could have easily avoided that question, and I just don't think it's something that he needs to get involved with in having a public stoush with a former premiership teammate.
I agree, and I don't think what Kane said was wrong.
It wasn't inflammatory, was it?
No.
What he said was right, probably.
Well, they didn't come to play.
Yeah. And they did, perhaps. The only conclusion you can draw is, did they get ahead of themselves?
Well, I think they did. I think they sort of were, pretty happy with the way they'd been performing. And you're right. I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting a sober reminder about how tough this competition is at this time of the year. The other thing that happened on Saturday night again was that Rance got tagged as a key position forward. This time by Nick Riewoldt, who played him really, really smart. I mean, he made himself a focal point for the ball when Rance was on him, which disallowed Rance the opportunity then to becoming that real floating defender, Duck.
Well, that's the best.
We saw it the week before with Tringo.
The best tagger you can be is have the ball in your hands, because Rance doesn't have it in his. It was a great start by Nick Riewoldt.
He drew the ball, though.
He did. He drew, and he's always going to do that. And I think, that's another great example. But for anyone that's to play on any of these gun defenders that are able to intercept marks, you've got to be dangerous. You've got to present to the footy. If you don't do that, you allow these players to do what they want, and that's exactly what Nick Riewoldt did.
Good effort for a guy that's, struggling a little with fitness to play on the best fullback in the game and
playing for his career too, yeah.
Duck, what did you make of your old side on the weekend? They came agonisingly close, North Melbourne, to stealing it at the end. Todd Goldstein had the chance to win it with 20 seconds left on the clock from 25 metres out on a very, very slight angle. It's a bad miss. He fronted up straight after. Credit to Todd Goldstein and the North Melbourne media department for doing so, but it's a bad miss in here.
Yeah, a bad miss. And look, their start, rather than focus on that miss, you focus on the starts for the Kangaroos. Their first halves have been really poor. Their second halves, believe it or not, have been really, really good, BT. But
have a look at
as
that.
you can see there, they're in close finishes. Haven't got a great record.
So focus on the starts, do we? I would have thought we focus on the finish, because that's where you get the points.
Well, I'm saying that the Kangaroos in second halves have been very, very good. They haven't lost a second half in about 5 weeks. Their starts to games have been really poor, and they got off to a terrible start in that game.
Are they where you thought they would be at the beginning of the year?
Given all of the changes that they made, I think they've found some quality kids and they've given them game time. I think you'll see the Kangaroos, and look, clearly they're going to finish in the bottom few, but I think you'll see the Kangaroos are quite capable, given another 7 weeks into these kids, another pre-season. I think they're a side capable of fitting into anywhere from 7th to 10th or 11th again next year. That's where I see them.
All right, guys, well, plenty more to come on Talking Footy. By the way, a massive Friday night coming up this Friday. The Saints take on the Bombers.
Don't miss any of the action this Friday night.
In a year where anyone can win it, these matches become season-defining. The Bombers have shown promise, but they desperately need a Friday night victory to stay in touch with the top 8.
How lucky we are!
And so do the Saints, who are looking to make it 4 in a row against the Dons.
It's the Saints versus the Bombers on Friday Night Footy.
Live and free on 7.
Yes, welcome back to Talking Footy. Time, Tim, for the W-Files. And the big news this evening, Jason Johannisen recommitting to the Western Bulldogs on a 5-year deal. The W-File question, will he recapture his career best form that saw him win a Norm Smith medal?
I'm not sure about that because he still has to get over the fact that he's been tagged and he's getting a lot of physical pressure. So I don't think that where we see his form right now had anything to do with the fact that he was worried about re-signing. I think it had more to do with the fact that he's been... a lot more pressure has been applied to him, so he still needs to get over that part.
Good signs last week, I thought. Tacked the footy really well, got a little bit more of the ball.
And good to see that he has recommitted to that footy club. BT, question 2 for you. Yes, will we see a new premiership favourite in the Swans if they beat GWS on the weekend?
Well, they've won 8 of their last 9 games.
Incredible.
9 games. They're only lost to Hawthorn by a goal and they probably should have won that.
Yeah.
We're going to find out because this weekend they play GWS in what should be an absolutely fantastic game. If they win that, all of a sudden they're looking at a top 4 possibility.
Yep. Which goal was better, Tim?
Well, the 2 absolute rip snorters, Wayne.
Higgins?
I love the first one from Higgins because that was deliberate. He seized the opportunity, he lined it up, he dribbled the ball deliberately. This was very good too, but I would think there was more instinctiveness about that one as opposed to the other boy.
That is rough. They are both instinctive.
They're great. They're both. Now, will the AFL crack down on the 30-second rule, given what we saw in the last minute of play yesterday?
Yeah, look, it was interesting, and this is why they changed the rule back to not having this. Remember when I think it might have been Higgins last year, Sam. So they changed the rule.
Mason Wood, was it?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Mason Wood, and then they've manipulated it again.
But you're allowed to kick it to someone else in a game of footy.
No, you are, but they know They know exactly how long they've got to go, or more or less. The runners come out and said, we've got about a minute and a half to go, and they've just run the clock right down. Whereas that may not have happened if that wasn't the case.
Tim,
yes.
Was this Port's best quarter?
I think it was. It was the best quarter of football I've seen them play. And they were... their run-off half-back, you see Boak there and this bloke on screen now, who was just a running machine as well. They had Polak, they had Pittard there running again, sharing. And then up forward, though, they had 2 great players in Westhoff and also Dixon who kicked 5 goals. So this is the best I've seen them play all year. White back into that side too. Also Wingard in the midfield. They were as good as any side I've seen this year. I am. I'm now understanding what Nathan Buckley had to say about Port a couple of weeks ago.
Beaten many top sides. Sydney in the first round.
That's not a bad win on the road against the West Coast Eagles, though.
West Coast, they're just so
at home.
At home, Brian.
So you're getting all excited about it?
I am going to get more excited about them now, yes. In fact, I've got them just ahead of your Tigers.
A little with BT. Hey, Duck, will we see clubs start to tag Rory Sloane again?
Yes, and I think on the weekend we found out that the Bulldogs, made a mistake by not going to him because he ended up getting into some good form, kicked a goal and was instrumental in their win.
Another big edition of the W-Files now, thanks to Gillette and Chemist Warehouse. It's time for the Gillette Pro Shield Defensive Play of the Week. And this week it's Melbourne's Neville Jetta for this potentially match-saving double effort against Cade Simpson against the Blues yesterday. Take a look at this, the handball over the top from Daisy Thomas. If he doesn't win that, Cade Simpson's streaming into a pretty open forward line, Tim.
Well, that's great. Second effort.
Yep. He might be close to the best small defender in the game right now, too.
All Australian?
Yeah, he'd be in that consideration,
yep.
yeah.
All right, guys, the blowtorch is next. And don't forget the front bar back in that slot of 8:30 on Thursday.
Not your car, Barmy.
Not your car, Barmy.
Barmy, this is not your car. And it's not even a Jeep, by the way.
Can I play the music?
Go on, okay.
The Front Bar, Thursday night on 7.
Welcome back. It's blowtorch time, and it's over to you, BT. Who are you scorching?
Well, the media, generally. You're involved in this. The clickbait mentality of online stuff, digital reporting, whether it's online at the papers or whether it's the radio stations. Hey, if you're going to write articles, at least put your name to them. We don't mind being criticised. Players don't mind being criticised, as long as you've got a name to it. When we criticise people, our names are there hanging on it, and we're subject...
When you
to
say
return.
Clickbait, what's that?
So, for instance, in the digital world on radio, these journalists, or not even journalists, young guys, get paid per click. So you say something, they put it out of context on the digital, and all of a sudden it blows up. It's a big headline. You didn't say it in that context. Because they've got a big headline, all of a sudden they get a lot of clicks going on.
That's not all journalists, BT.
Not all.
What sort of money
young
are we
ones
talking for a click?
Put your name to it.
Young
I'm young.
Yeah.
Ish.
It's a click-off.
Yeah, but how much do you get for a click?
How does it work?
I don't know how much you get paid per click, but all I know is people similar to you are really clicking off.
How much are some of these young people making with their clicks?
I don't know. Let's not talk too much detail.
All right, the fine art, this is my blowtorch. The fine art of acting is just that, it's a fine art. Now, you can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. Bernie Vince has demonstrated over a long and distinguished career that he can play the game. He's also demonstrated he can play hard. He's an aggressive player. He may look like a choir boy, but my word, he can play with devilish aggression when it takes his cause. And Bernie is prone to the odd exaggeration of contact, though. Early in the year, most of us gave him the benefit of the doubt. Then yesterday at the MCG, he gave us cause to reflect on that incident with Ben Cunnington. Maybe he's hanging around with too many thespians at Channel 9. Maybe he spent time in the off-season at the Lee Strasberg School of Acting in New York. I don't know. Bernie Vince appears to want to be more like Vince Vaughn at times. Get back to being a pack crasher and stop aspiring to be a wedding crasher, Bernie.
You have had nothing to do today, have you?
It's time now for the Rising Star, and there's more to this award than each round nominee. NAB has developed a recognition award that's presented to the junior footy clubs of all the nominees, designed to support and reward those clubs that are creating future champions. Congratulations to everybody out there. Each junior club receives $1,000 and loads of training and coaching equipment. And as you can see, Carlton young gun Charlie Curnow is this week's winner. Duck, is he going to be a star? He played his junior footy at Torquay Tigers in the AFL Barwon competition. But don't you just love the way he's developing?
I love the way he attacks the footy. You can tell he's going to put on a little bit of muscle again after another pre-season. Took 11 marks last week, another 10 this week. He's a star in the making.
A little bit of jumping on my bandwagon.
His attack on the footy and his hands are clean, and he uses
a little bit of pressure when people are already comparing him to Cooter, BT.
Hey, boys.
That's what we do.
While we're talking about the Blues, are you guys going to buy this?
What's that?
That's definitely Alex Rance in a Carlton jumper.
Liam Jones.
He swap clubs. He just keeps getting the hand in.
Here he is, the fullback of the century, Liam Jones.
Well, you bought it. You obviously bought it yesterday.
Are you taking on Leith?
Now listen, for all the Liam Jones converters out there, and he has converted, he's played 5 games. He's played 4 really super-duper ones. And one yesterday that was, you know, OK, but average.
He had 1 goal kicked on him.
You know, to
Playing
be as
on a
good
guy
as...
that hasn't played for about 6 weeks.
To be as good as Rance or Scarlett, you've got to play for years.
That's
or
right.
Seasons.
That's
even.
right. Congratulations to him. I mean, he's resurrected. But he's resurrected his career and he's playing great footy. But right now, to make a comparison of him with Rance is a bit premature.
You blokes have a go at journos for being too.
You're allowed to.
He's played 4 good games in a row.
Yeah, but that's right.
Just give him a rap. That's fine. The greatest player of all time has made a comment. That's okay.
Not Alex Rance.
No, he's probably not. That's fair.
I respect everything Lou says, by the way.
After the break, Watto is back with Say That Again, and we wrap up another big night on Talking Footy.
We're talking footy.
Lucky here at the Bulldogs. Mitch Honeychurch, and Mitch Honeychurch is, well, he's the main one.
Let's start at MCG yesterday, Clayton Oliver. Now, how can that Carlton fan be sure of what he thought Clayton Oliver said over the fence to him yesterday when you listen to Clayton Oliver post-game?
You sort of just listen to in the four squares of the other club, you listen to that, and then you just go there and focus on the footy, and that's all you worry about.
Say that again.
Daisy knew exactly what it was that he would say. Look at her face. Bruce McAvaney, I think he's been watching Channel 7's House Rules. Have a listen to Macca.
Is he good on the lip, BT?
Oh, he'd be pretty good on the lip and great with his hands. BT, I reckon you'd think he's tidy in the bathroom, you love him that much.
Say that again.
Oh, Bruce.
And poor old Nick Maxwell, he's copping it from the fans now about staying out in the ground too long. Have a listen to this.
Or 50 metres.
Pull off the ground, he's wandering around again.
He's got a mic in the grandstand, that fella.
Say that again.
And our own Duck thinks that Josh Thomas, that's Josh Thomas from Collingwood, doesn't use a napkin when he's eating his breakfast. Have a listen.
And the fact that he fumbled that one probably got him a free kick in the end, but he's, I reckon he's left a bit of butter on his fingers from breakfast this morning.
Wow. That should have been good, but it really wasn't.
Say that again.
That'd be Butterfingers.
We finally got there. And BT just reminding us at the weekend that he went to the Mandurah show when he was a kid.
What about the claw pick up there from Eddie Betts? Just the one-handed claw. Just went down like a clunking crane.
Say that again.
We know what you meant, the clunking crane with the prize. Isn't that the one you were going?
Yes, that's exactly the one I was going. What about a couple of Falcons just to finish off? Mason Cox on the weekend. Have a look at this. Bang, got him. Right in the snozzer.
They say keep your eyes on it.
Timing, get the big W right. And, of course, this one, a Jetta. Over the back, wasn't expecting it. Bang, got him. And, of course, this is Joey Denner. Have a look. To Maynard there, just counting off the goals at a Razio Fantasia. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very, very funny indeed.
Everyone enjoys that.
All right, that's enough on Talking Footy. By the way, on 7-2 tonight, you can catch Wimbledon. Don't forget that. The big players are there tonight. Murray, Federer, Rafa and Novak Djokovic is there as well. Look forward to next week. Luke Darcy is back on Talking Footy.